Have you ever faced a problem that seemed too big to solve? What if the answer was patience, trust, and not giving up? The Bible tells a powerful story of how the people of Israel showed incredible patience and perseverance, even when things looked impossible. In this video, we'll dive deep into their journey and how they overcame challenges. Keep watching to discover how their faith and determination can inspire you to push through your own struggles. In the journey of life, we often find ourselves at a crossroads, when everything seems uncertain and the weight of our struggles feels unbearable. We all have faced moments where the road ahead seems impossible to navigate, where every step we take feels heavier than the last. Yet, in those moments of despair, there is one powerful force that can guide us through the storm. Patience. Patience, rooted in deep faith, holds the key to not just surviving, but thriving against all odds. And sometimes, perseverance is the very tool we need to uncover the greatness within us. The Bible, a timeless guide of hope, wisdom, and endurance, holds stories that speak directly to the heart of this struggle. These stories are not just ancient tales. They are powerful lessons that transcend time, offering us a blueprint for resilience. One of the most profound of these stories comes from the land of Israel, where generations faced trials, challenges, and moments of doubt. Yet through it all, they held on to one crucial belief, that with patience and perseverance, any obstacle could be overcome. For the people of Israel, this was more than just a principle. It was a way of life. It was their guiding star, leading them through years of hardship, through moments when the future seemed clouded with uncertainty. Their journey wasn't easy. It was filled with trials, pain, and moments of seeming failure. But it was through their struggles that they learned the most important lesson of all, that true strength comes not from avoiding challenges, but from enduring them with faith and trust in the process. In Israel today, the echoes of this story continue to resonate. The world around us moves fast, and sometimes it feels like everything we desire is just out of reach. The weight of expectations, both from the outside world and ourselves, can be overwhelming. Yet this story of patience and perseverance is a reminder, a call to slow down, trust the process, and keep moving forward, even when the journey seems endless. It's easy to become discouraged when we face setbacks or feel like we're not making progress. But just like the people of Israel, we too can draw strength from their story and find the courage to keep going. The theme of patience and perseverance runs deep throughout the Bible, woven into every story, every parable, and every triumph. From the patience of Job in the face of unimaginable loss to the perseverance of David as he faced giants both literal and metaphorical, the Bible teaches us that patience isn't just about waiting. It's about trusting that something greater is at work. In the most trying of times, patience becomes a powerful force that turns obstacles into opportunities, despair into hope, and weakness into strength. This theme is not just confined to the pages of history. It continues to speak to us today. In our own lives, we often find ourselves caught in moments of uncertainty. Whether it's facing personal struggles, professional challenges, or the weight of societal expectations, the power of patience and perseverance is just as relevant now as it was in ancient times. The modern world may have changed, but the human experience remains the same. We all face moments of doubt, moments when we question whether we have the strength to keep going. But the story of Israel offers us a reminder. It's in these very moments that our true power is forged. By looking back at the ancient Israelites and their unwavering faith, we can find the courage to face our own battles. They show us that patience is not a passive act, but an active choice, a decision to keep moving forward, even when the path is unclear. And perseverance is not just about enduring hardships, but about holding on to hope and faith, knowing that something greater is waiting on the other side. So, as we delve into the powerful story of Israel, remember this: patience and perseverance are not just words. They are the keys to unlocking your potential. The Israelites' journey is a testament to what is possible when you hold on to your faith, even in the darkest of times. Their story is our story, and their lessons are as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. And just as they overcame their challenges, so too can we, by embracing the same virtues that carried them through. As we move deeper into their journey, let us remember the struggles they faced and the lessons they learned. Let their story inspire us to take that next step, even when we can't see the way ahead. Let their faith be a beacon of hope in our own lives, reminding us that the power to overcome is already within us. Through patience and perseverance, we too can conquer the giants in our own lives. The desert stretched out before them, an endless sea of sand under a scorching sun. The Israelites, led by Moses, stood at the edge of the wilderness, weary from their journey. The path they had walked was long, filled with hardship, and riddled with doubt. Their hearts were heavy, their spirits weighed down by uncertainty. But this was not just a physical journey. It was a test of their faith, their patience, and their perseverance. For generations, the Israelites had lived in bondage, oppressed, and broken by the hands of Pharaoh in Egypt. But through a series of divine miracles, they had been freed. They had crossed the Red Sea, witnessed God's mighty hand part the waters, and walked on dry land, leaving behind a life of slavery. It was a moment of triumph, a moment that should have filled their hearts with unshakable hope. Yet, as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, they found themselves questioning everything. Was this freedom, or was it just another form of suffering? Was their long-awaited promise of a land flowing with milk and honey really within reach? The challenges they faced were many: hunger, thirst, and the ever-present threat of the unknown. Yet, through it all, there was a burning desire in their hearts to find peace, to find home, to find the promise that had been spoken to their ancestors. But the journey was far from easy. It wasn't long before they found themselves struggling once again. The promises they had heard in the past now seemed distant, overshadowed by the harsh reality of their situation. In moments of despair, the Israelites began to doubt. Would they ever reach the promised land? Was their faith misplaced? And as the days dragged on, their patience began to wane. It was in these moments of doubt that their true test began. The people turned to Moses, the leader who had led them out of Egypt, the one who had performed miracles and carried the word of God. "Why did you bring us here to die in the wilderness?" they cried. "Was there not enough room for us in Egypt?" They grumbled and complained, yearning for the familiar comforts of slavery, even if it meant sacrificing their newfound freedom. Their doubt was not just in Moses, but in the promises of God himself. The very God who had delivered them from the clutches of Pharaoh seemed so far away now. But Moses, with a heart full of faith, did not falter. He turned to God, seeking guidance, knowing that their survival depended on trust, not just in him, but in a divine plan that they could not yet understand. And it was in this moment of despair that the Israelites were about to experience a powerful lesson, one that would echo through the generations to come. Moses' challenge was not just to lead them out of Egypt, but to lead them through the wilderness of their own doubts and fears. The wilderness was not just a place on the map. It was a metaphor for the trials that would shape them. It was here, in the midst of uncertainty, that they would learn the power of patience. It was here, among the dry desert sands, that their faith would be tested, pushed to its limits. Every step they took forward was a step into the unknown, where answers were few and hope seemed distant. They had no water, and the sun burned down relentlessly upon their backs. Their feet were sore, and their provisions were running low. In the depths of their struggles, they began to question whether they would ever see the land that had been promised to them. The doubts were like a heavy cloud, darkening their hearts and minds, clouding their vision of the future. Yet, as they struggled, a miracle unfolded before them. God instructed Moses to strike a rock with his staff, and when he did, water poured forth, quenching their thirst. The Israelites were reminded once again that they were not alone, that even in the driest of deserts, their needs would be met. But this moment, this brief taste of relief, would not be enough to quiet their doubts completely. The wilderness still loomed large, and so did their fear. As the days wore on, the Israelites continued to struggle, but they also began to change. Through their doubts, they began to learn the power of perseverance. They began to understand that patience was not about waiting passively. It was about trusting the process, even when the outcome was unclear. They began to realize that their journey, though difficult, was shaping them, preparing them for something far greater than they could imagine. Their struggle, though long, was not without purpose. It was shaping their character, teaching them resilience, and preparing them for the moment when they would finally set foot in the land promised to them. The wilderness was not a place of defeat, but a place of transformation. And as they faced each challenge, they grew stronger, more united, and more determined to keep moving forward. The Israelites were learning, as we all must learn, that the road to greatness is never easy. It is filled with obstacles, moments of doubt, and challenges that seem insurmountable. But it is in these very moments that we find our strength. Patience and perseverance are not just virtues. They are the foundation upon which we build our lives. And as the Israelites continued their journey, they were about to discover that every struggle, every moment of doubt, was leading them to something far greater than they could ever have imagined. As the Israelites trudged through the harsh, barren desert, each step felt heavier than the last. The hot, unforgiving sun beat down on their backs, and the dust clung to their skin. With every passing day, the dream of a promised land seemed to slip further away. What had started as a hopeful escape from slavery now felt like an endless ordeal, a never-ending cycle of hunger, thirst, and uncertainty. And as the days turned into weeks, the promise of freedom felt less like a blessing and more like a cruel joke. It wasn't just the physical exhaustion that weighed on them. It was the deep, gnawing ache of doubt that had taken root in their hearts. They had left the comfort of Egypt, the only life they had ever known, for the unknown. And now, standing in the midst of the desert, they were starting to wonder if they had made a mistake. Every dream they had about the promised land seemed like a distant illusion, fading further and further into the horizon. As the struggle continued, the Israelites' faith began to waver. They had followed Moses into the wilderness, trusting that God would guide them. But now, in the midst of their suffering, that trust was being tested. They had witnessed miracles, water from a rock, manna from the heavens. But the challenges seemed endless. With every hardship, the cracks in their faith grew wider, and the murmurs of doubt grew louder. Their hunger became unbearable. The food they had brought with them was running out, and the manna from heaven, while a blessing, could not fill their hearts with the joy they had hoped for. "Why did we leave Egypt?" they cried out. "At least there, we had food to eat. Here, we are starving, waiting for something that may never come." The frustration in their voices was palpable. They had left behind the security of the known, only to face a world filled with uncertainty. And yet, in their frustration, they could not see that this struggle was shaping them, making them stronger, preparing them for something greater. It wasn't just the physical struggles that burdened them. It was the emotional weight of the journey. With every step, they felt more isolated, more disconnected from the world they had once known. The wilderness, with its barren landscapes and endless expanse of sand, was suffocating them. It was as though they were walking through a void, surrounded by nothing but the echoes of their own doubts and fears. And in that silence, their hearts began to grow heavy with the weight of their unanswered prayers. The pain wasn't just in their bodies, it was in their souls. They had been promised a land of abundance, a place of peace. But all they had known for months was hardship. Their spirits were breaking under the strain. How could they hold on when every day felt like a test they were failing? How could they keep believing in something they couldn't see? The land they dreamed of was still so far away, and the wilderness was full of obstacles that seemed insurmountable. Yet, even in the depths of their suffering, there was a flicker of hope that refused to die. It was the same hope that had driven them to follow Moses into the wilderness. Even as their faith faltered, they knew deep down that they could not give up. They had come this far, and to turn back now would be to lose everything. Their struggle was not just a test of their bodies, it was a test of their spirits. And it was here, in the heart of their doubt, that they began to understand the true meaning of perseverance. Moses, too, felt the weight of the struggle. As the leader of the people, he carried the burden of their faith, their hopes, and their dreams. The Israelites turned to him in their moments of despair, questioning why they had been led into this barren wasteland. "Why did you bring us here to die?" they cried. "Was it better for us in Egypt?" Moses, weary and burdened by their complaints, turned to God for guidance. He knew that the people needed more than just physical sustenance. They needed a renewal of faith. But how could he offer them that when even his own heart was heavy with doubt? In that moment of anguish, Moses found himself standing at a crossroads. He could allow their doubt to overwhelm him, or he could choose to trust in the same God who had delivered them from Egypt. It was not an easy choice. His own faith was being tested, but he knew that the answer lay in perseverance. He turned to God, asking for strength and guidance, knowing that the Israelites could not make it through the wilderness without a firm foundation of faith. God's answer was simple but profound. "I will provide." And so, Moses relayed this message to the people, telling them that their perseverance would not go in vain. But it wasn't just about waiting for God to provide. It was about trusting in His timing, even when they couldn't see the end of the road. As the days dragged on, the Israelites learned, through their struggles, that perseverance was not simply about enduring hardship. It was about trusting the process. It was about understanding that every challenge, every moment of pain, was shaping them for something greater. The wilderness was not their final destination. It was a place of transformation. Every step, no matter how difficult, was bringing them closer to their goal. But they had to hold on, even when the road seemed long and the destination uncertain. In the face of hardship, the Israelites began to rediscover their strength. They learned that patience wasn't just about waiting, it was about trusting that something greater was unfolding. And as they pushed forward, step by painful step, they realized that the promise of the land flowing with milk and honey was not just a destination, it was the journey itself. The Israelites were at the brink of despair. Their journey had taken them to the edge of their endurance. Each day seemed to stretch on forever, and every step forward was followed by yet another challenge. The sun was relentless, the land barren, and their hope dwindling like the last remnants of water in their empty vessels. Every promise seemed like a distant memory, fading away with the winds of doubt. They were struggling, not just with the harsh desert, but with their own faith. Yet, amid this profound darkness, something miraculous was about to unfold. A shift, a moment of profound realization. It began as a quiet whisper in the hearts of the people. It was not a voice they could hear with their ears, but a stirring deep within their souls. A quiet prompting they had long ignored. It was the realization that patience, true patience, was not about waiting idly for the promise to come. It was about trusting in the process, in the unseen forces at work, even when nothing made sense. As Moses led the people through the desert, the murmurs of discontent grew louder. They had faced hunger, thirst, and fear for so long that they had forgotten the miracles that had brought them this far. How could they believe in a promise of a land flowing with milk and honey when all they saw around them was barren wasteland? How could they trust in a God who had delivered them from Egypt, only to leave them stranded in this lifeless desert? Their doubts were suffocating them. And yet, it was in this moment of profound struggle that they would experience their breakthrough. Moses, too, was weary. His heart was heavy with the burden of leading a people who no longer believed in the vision he had once shared with them. He had led them out of Egypt, through the parted Red Sea. But now, standing in the desert with no sign of relief in sight, even his faith was beginning to waver. The people had turned against him, and their accusations cut deep. But in this dark moment, Moses made a decision that would change the course of their journey. He turned his gaze toward the heavens, seeking guidance. It was a moment of vulnerability, a moment when he admitted that, despite all the miracles, he too had questions. He too needed reassurance. In the silence of the desert, Moses found his answer. Not in a booming voice, but in a quiet, steady confidence that grew within him. It was a realization that resonated deeply within his soul. The Israelites were not alone. They were being led, step by step, by a power greater than themselves. And this power, this divine force, had not abandoned them. It was testing them, teaching them the value of trust, patience, and perseverance. Moses knew that if he was to lead his people to the promised land, they had to learn the same lesson. The wilderness was not a place of punishment. It was a place of preparation. Their struggles were shaping them into something stronger, something greater than they could ever have imagined. And so, Moses turned to the Israelites, not with harsh words, but with a heart full of faith. He reminded them of the miracles they had witnessed, the Red Sea parting, the manna from heaven, the water from the rock. And he told them this simple truth: the God who had led them this far would continue to lead them, if only they would trust, if only they would have patience. For the first time in a long while, something shifted in the hearts of the Israelites. It was subtle at first, like the first rays of dawn breaking through the darkness. They began to realize that their journey was not about reaching the promised land. It was about learning to trust in the process, in the divine timing that had been set in motion long before they had even taken their first step. They began to understand that true patience was not about waiting passively for the promise to be fulfilled. It was about walking each step in faith, even when the way ahead seemed uncertain. And then, the miracle happened. The heavens opened up once more, and the Israelites received what they had so desperately longed for, a gift that would carry them through the rest of their journey. They were given a deeper understanding of what it meant to persevere. It wasn't just about enduring suffering. It was about trusting that, even in their darkest moments, they were not alone. They were being guided by a higher power, and that power would see them through. In that moment, everything changed. The doubt that had clouded their hearts began to lift, replaced by a quiet confidence. They were no longer just wandering through the desert. They were on a sacred journey, one that would lead them to a future greater than they could ever have imagined. The wilderness was no longer a place of despair. It was a place of growth, a place where their faith would be tested, refined, and strengthened. And with each step, they drew closer not just to the land they had been promised, but to the deeper truth that their journey was about more than just reaching a destination. It was about transformation. The Israelites had learned the lesson of patience, not as passive waiting, but as an active, trusting surrender to the divine plan. Their hearts were open, their spirits were renewed, and their faith was stronger than it had ever been before. They knew that the road ahead would not be easy, but they were no longer afraid. They had learned the true meaning of perseverance, and it had given them the strength to keep going. The journey that began in the harsh desert had brought the Israelites to a place they could scarcely have imagined, the Promised Land. But their triumph was not just the result of reaching a destination. It was the fruit of their struggle, their unwavering perseverance, and their unshakable patience. Through every moment of doubt, every step of hardship, they had held on to one simple truth. Perseverance in faith would carry them through. As the Israelites finally gazed upon the land flowing with milk and honey, their hearts swelled with a mixture of awe, relief, and pride. It was not just the land that they had fought for. It was the strength they had built within themselves, the faith they had cultivated through years of challenges. They had overcome obstacles that once seemed insurmountable, and in doing so, they had transformed from a people shackled by doubt into a people grounded in faith and resilience. The trials they had faced, the hunger, the thirst, the fear, had not been in vain. It was through those struggles that they had learned the value of patience and trust. They had learned that true perseverance was not just about enduring hardships. It was about remaining steadfast in the belief that every challenge was a lesson, every hardship a step toward growth. In that moment, as they stood on the threshold of their new home, the Israelites realized that their victory was not simply a gift. It was a hard-earned achievement. It was the result of their refusal to give up, even when the road ahead seemed endless. They had endured the worst and come out stronger on the other side. This ancient lesson, though thousands of years old, holds powerful relevance today. In Israel, just as in the story of the Israelites, people face challenges, personal, emotional, and even societal. But the lesson remains the same. Perseverance in the face of adversity brings victory. The road may be long, and the obstacles may seem overwhelming, but with patience, trust, and unwavering faith, we can overcome anything. Just as the Israelites learned to trust the process and rely on their faith, so too can we. Whether it's personal struggles, professional hurdles, or the uncertainties of life, the strength to keep going is already within us, and like the Israelites, when we persist, we will reach our promised land. Our goals, our dreams, and our ultimate purpose. As we look back on the journey of the Israelites, we see a story not just of survival, but of transformation. What began as a struggle through the harsh desert became a profound lesson in the power of patience and perseverance. The Israelites did not merely overcome external obstacles, they conquered their own doubts, fears, and uncertainties. They learned that true strength isn't just about facing physical challenges. It's about trusting the process, even when the outcome seems far out of reach. Through their long journey, they discovered that patience isn't passive. It's an active choice, a decision to trust that, even when life feels uncertain, something greater is at work. The Israelites didn't just endure, they transformed. They learned that each step, no matter how difficult, was bringing them closer to the fulfillment of their promise. And in the process, they became a stronger, more unified people, shaped by the very struggles they once feared. This message is just as powerful for us today. We too face moments where our patience is tested, where the challenges before us seem endless. Whether it's a personal struggle, a professional setback, or a moment of doubt, the lesson of the Israelites reminds us that perseverance is the key to unlocking our true potential. It's easy to lose hope when things aren't going the way we want. But the story teaches us that every hardship carries with it an opportunity for growth. Every moment of discomfort is an invitation to trust that, in time, things will shift. Just like the Israelites, we too can find strength in our struggles. We can learn to trust the process, knowing that, even when we can't see the end of the road, each step forward brings us closer to our own promised land. Patience is not just about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to stand firm in the midst of it, knowing that the challenge is shaping us into who we are meant to be. So, I leave you with this question. When life becomes difficult, how can you embrace patience and perseverance as your tools for growth? In those moments of doubt, can you trust that your struggles are not in vain, but rather, they are preparing you for something greater? Just as the Israelites found their strength through patience, so too can we find ours. As we come to the end of this journey through the story of the Israelites, remember this: their triumph was not defined by the destination, but by the strength they discovered along the way. Every struggle they faced, every moment of doubt, and every step of perseverance led them to the promised land. Not just physically, but spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. They learned the profound truth that patience and faith are not just abstract concepts. They are powerful forces that can transform lives. Now think about your own journey. Life may throw challenges your way. Doubts may creep in, and the path ahead may not always be clear. But just as the Israelites did, you can choose to stand firm in the face of adversity, trusting that your perseverance will lead you to your own promised land. Remember, the greatest victories come not from avoiding struggle, but from pushing through it with unwavering belief in the process. So, as you go on with your day, Carry the lesson of the Israelites with you. Embrace patience, trust the journey, and know that every challenge you face is a step toward the greatness that awaits you. Keep believing, keep moving forward, and never give up. If you found inspiration in today's story, make sure to like this video and share it with others who may need that spark of hope. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can continue to receive content that will uplift and empower you. Watch the full video for even more insights. And together, let's walk the path of perseverance and faith.